now I gotta wait to get the green light to go.
But if we're not on TV,
There you go.
Nope, we
we
are.
are on TV.
Yep. All right. Welcome, everyone, to the January 21st Finance Committee meeting. I'd like to call it to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Happy New Year to everybody. As we start into our 2017 work. So let's start with the approval of the December 17th minutes. Has everybody had an opportunity to read them? If not, we do have copies if you want to run over them. I read them, they seemed fine to me.
There was a correction somewhere that I
A
meant.
couple of corrections were made.
But I think
Yeah.
Kathy made them, correct?
No, it's actually on page 5. It's just a spelling error, Patricia DeBoer, not just Boer. It's
D-E?
capital D-E, and then capital B-O-E-R. So it's page 5, school section.
Hi, Mike?
I apologize.
No, no issues.
Oh, I see it. Oh,
Yeah, it's Patricia DeBoer.
Yep.
Besides that, it looked good, and I'll make a motion that we approve with that one correction.
Second. I'll second that.
All those approve, say aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain, because I have no idea what you just approved.
Yeah, no, we're approving the minutes,
December 17th.
December
I
17th.
approved, because I read them.
Okay, so we have, what, 4 or 5, and then 1 abstention?
Aye.
You abstained? You approved?
No, I approved.
Everyone approved, but
So it's six yeses and 1 abstention from
Six and
Oscar. Okay. New business. I do know that John Cotton wasn't going to be here tonight to give us a selectmen's report. He was somewhere, I can't remember what it was, but
MMA.
that was it,
Yeah.
MMA, thank you. So are there any other liaison reports?
yes, I have one.
Okay.
The capital improvement schedule is beginning next week. We're gonna have an organizational meeting on Tuesday afternoon at 3. Then on the Thursday, we're gonna be talking about the DPW, the planning and construction, and the school. And the following Tuesday will be police, sewer, and recreation. And then the following Thursday will be the selectmen, the fire, and the IT department. Pretty much at doing a quick glance, there's a lot of requests, and there's some pretty high requests, so I can say that we're gonna be really looking at what we need as opposed to what we want. And I am sure that with the help of Don Thayer, the finance director, and Rodney Collins, town manager, that we'll come up with a good plan. And let's not forget, Chuck, our former member, is the member at large from the community, so.
Maybe just for, you know, people like Jeffrey, I'm just thinking, so these meetings specifically do what? Or have you already been sent requests?
No, we've seen the requests. They're
Okay,
in
so you
here.
have all the
We have
requests.
the requests, we have a summary from each department, what they're looking for, and we also have it from FY '17 all the way out to FY 2022, because that, by charter, we have to have a plan that goes out that far. And so, these are the requests from all the departments. For instance, this is the DPW. And it starts with FY '17 and then '18, '19, so on and so forth. So we discuss it, and we also discuss the out years. I know that Mike served on the CIP for several years as a selectman, and it's each department comes in and explains what they, the reasons for why they need these things, and also what they need in the out years, because, again, we're planning forward. Most of the things are not surprises, I can say it quite honestly, of the planning and construction, and the DPW, fire and police, and the IT department, and actually the school. Nothing's a surprise to me. I will be quite frank, it's the sewer commission that, to me, came in at a surprisingly high recommendation, but I'll wait until I hear what each of these departments do in their presentation.
You have a good historical perspective of what they've asked for years past
Yeah,
Right,
that have been approved and not approved.
Yeah,
So they do it, it's pretty well done.
yeah.
yeah.
And I'm assuming you looked at last year's
Oh, I
cap
have,
thing, right?
I
So then-
actually have my folder from the last 3 or 4 years. I have
So
them.
were there many changes from that 5-year plan to this year as far as what, other than the new request, I'm assuming?
No, the only thing that changed drastically over the last 5 to 10 years was that we had decided to do that bond. And when we did the bond and we got rid of, so to speak, some of the things that were gonna be in out years, we took care of them by getting a bond. And that was a lot of building issues that we have in town that had to be taken care of. It was actually a better way to go. And we also have to remember that the high school debt is coming off in FY '18, so things are gonna change a little bit, they're gonna shift. Doesn't mean we should start doing that.
Buying or
Yeah,
spending.
buying and going up to that, but it does give us a little bit of leverage, and also because of our AAA rating, we're getting things at a better
Yeah, time is
rate
right.
as well.
It puts us in a
So-
great position to do what we have to do on roads and stuff.
Yes.
By getting money at good rates that we couldn't get, now that I'm closing out some stuff allows us to do that, so it's,
It's an interesting process. I mean, these are open meetings, they're posted meetings. It's just, I've never had one last more than an hour and a half.
yeah, that's about it.
What we do is, these are just the initial meetings, and we have a meeting where we decide what we're going to recommend to the town meeting voters and to everyone else to bring forward what projects, and where the funding's coming from. Because it may be that we have $1 million in there, but 400,000 is coming from a source, a grant through the fire or police. It may be that there's, I know many times we've used the cable money, the MCAT money, the Mashpee Cable and Technology Fund, MCAT funds, which come from the fees that we pay to Comcast to use Comcast. There's a percentage in there. So there's a lot of different funding things that can be done. It's not all coming out of the levying. So anyway, that's just a thought too. But everything that's over a certain amount of money and has a certain lifespan should go through the CIP.
Do you have a sense yet if thematically there's an area of emphasis?
No, maybe just taking care of our buildings. We always have the police cars. Remember, we have
10
a
years,
program that Rodney Collins presented over, about 10 years ago.
Right.
And we've stuck to it. It's just a leasing program with buying the police vehicles. The DPW as well, it's pretty much in line. We have certain things we're replacing. The fire department, its ambulances are coming back up, that will have 3 ambulances. But remember, a lot of those are paid for by
Ambulance
ambulance
receipts.
receipts. It's not coming out of the general fund. So there's a lot of things that, because I've done this for so long, that I'm not surprised by them. I knew they were coming up, and they were always in those out years. But there's always some things that show up that are emergencies, and that's why sometimes you look for alternative ways to fund them, such as maybe taking out a bond and doing it that way.
Any talk about a new DPW building yet?
That's always
It was
been
on
in
last
there,
year, yeah.
yes, it's always in there. I haven't really studied this, I just got this, so I haven't had time to really look through
No, that's
what's
fine.
different.
But it is on a schedule.
Well, it's something that, yes, we have talked about for many times, and it's probably under planning.
It's something
and
that's gonna have to be
construction.
done.
Yeah,
Without a doubt. I
Without
mean,
a
I
doubt.
think it's probably, just on a
yeah.
broad thing, I think it's one of the issues where we are getting the school off, that we, to your point, we
You
can
get a
borrow money
year,
at a
you
good
get a year
rate.
like last year, this year,
Yeah,
and people will be coming to the town hall volunteering to pay for it.
yeah, I mean, I
crazy.
think it's about time that our trucks
Yeah,
are
I mean-
in a
Here it is,
garage.
right here. It is in the FY '17 under planning and construction. Storage, garage, and parking improvements at DPW are the beginning of it, and then there's other things that I know are in the out years. Again, I have not even really looked
That's
at
fine.
this with
No,
any
I just,
time.
as long as it's being at least.
Yeah.
Last year when Terry and I
looked
were there, they submitted
Oh,
a
yeah.
plan for a whole new building with office space and everything else
Yeah.
that we kind of pushed back on. It seemed very aggressive
Yeah,
when we were looking at protecting outdoor equipment primarily.
sure.
But I mean,
But
it's
that's the
been.
storage garage is
Right,
what is
yeah.
in here in FY '17.
Mm-hmm.
Which we thought made total sense because
Right.
we're buying all these vehicles and then we're leaving stuff out.
Yeah, it doesn't make any
It
sense to me
doesn't
either.
make any sense.
And you can't leave Sanders out, because we ran into that problem last year with it.
Yes.
It just turns into a solid rock and it won't spread.
But really
Coming
overall,
on Sunday.
I do have to compliment the former town manager in that she did set up a nice process, and I think it's gonna work well going forward, the
I
process.
agree.
Yeah.
Great, good report, thank you.
I met with the library, and they have reacted positively to the, I guess I'll call it pushback on their request. And they have resubmitted their budget at a percentage lower that I think will be acceptable.
With
So,
less people, I guess that was the sticking
it's,
point.
yeah, well, it's not less people necessarily, but they cut on areas that they thought they could cut and still accommodate the budget number.
Right.
So I think, we met last week, and it was a positive approach to the reaction. It was a good reaction to the approach, so
to
it was
pushback.
positive.
Great. So the person, I think that was.
The
there was
position.
talk, or I should say, the position that was gonna remain at a part-time, did that go away, or did they find a way to fund it?
It was one of those kind of convoluted things. You know, when you set up an operation with part-time people, you have to accept the fact that part-time people aren't full-time people. They realize they're not gonna get a full-time job, maybe. They don't have the same desire to excel, if you will, because they're looking for full-time jobs someplace else. So when you do that, you're gonna have to now step back and start looking at your operation and say, how can I fix this? And, that's what Kathy's looking at, and I think that's the right way to look at things. So I think what's gonna happen is they're gonna cut where they have to cut to see if they can't get the position, which is a full-time position. It'll involve eliminating perhaps the part-time position.
All right.
But they'll cut other places so they won't exceed their budget. We'll see how it works out, but I mean, they gotta think about the fact that they did what they had to do to get going. But when you do that, and you have a bunch of people running around that don't really care that much about the future, because there's no full-time job there.
Unless somebody's just willing to just do a part-time job, right? And that's,
Yeah, and you have, they're there. They're
Yeah.
hard to find.
yeah,
Because those that you do find for part-time normally want to find a full-time job. They're taking a part-time to make ends meet until they get a full-time job. See, they're not motivated to stay forever.
both sides of that, yeah, because I
So-
mean, I can see the person who's just.
The long and
looking
short
for
of
a
it is that they accepted the reaction, and they're trying to react positively, so we'll see what happens.
Good.
Do we know when Town Manager Collins is going to have his suggested budget numbers?
I do not know specifically a date. He is in the building, I believe. I don't know if he got tied up. He said, I saw him over the weekend at the Chili Fest, and he said he was gonna be attending our meeting. And,
I'm
We can ask him
curious
directly.
because we really can't get down to business till we know what he's
right, his recommendations.
putting out for the budget. That's not on the agenda on Monday, is it? For the selectmen's meeting? I'm just curious. I looked at it, but I didn't really know anything about the budget.
As you can imagine, Joyce had this thing pretty locked and loaded every year. This is kind of new for Rodney, so it's going to take a while.
Should, I mean, my feeling though is that I'm guessing most of it's, I would think the heavy lifting is done by Don, I would
Yeah.
think. And then from there, it's tweaking, but it's a lot of work, no doubt.
But it is the town manager's budget, and we gotta remember that's what is read at town meeting, that's, where we go from, and that's what we have to do our report. Which brings me to something else, because I know Chuck offered to help, but I'm willing to be the lead on that, because I followed it very closely last year, including the tax calculation I don't know if you remember that. So I'm willing to be the lead on getting our report out.
Well, and I think we all should, that's great, and if everyone likes that idea, I think that's excellent. But I think we all need to do a little bit of
Oh,
lifting
absolutely.
on it and take ownership, and I may start with sort of the, and I'll throw this out there, whomever you are, your liaisons, departments are with, I would suggest perhaps then those would be the the reports that you will write, or at least address. And a lot of the stuff doesn't, we sort of go through and if we're in agreement on a lot of things and so forth, but the final tax rate and so forth, I don't mind working with you with that, certainly
Right.
talking to,
I'm just saying the
Jeremy.
coordination at the very end, getting it to Christine. And
Right.
doing the proofreading and all that, because I found out today that she's gonna be gone the week that we normally have that last push for it. And I believe she's gonna be asking for it by April 2nd, from what I'm understanding.
Teresa?
No, it'd be Christine.
No, I know, but is it Teresa?
Teresa Villa is
Teresa?
the other person in the
Yeah.
office, but it's Christine's responsibility.
She was very good. She proofed the report for the,
Yeah.
what is the name of that report? The town annual, town annual report.
Yeah,
And,
for
so-
what you sent in.
Yeah. So other than some of the things that we came up with and so
Yeah.
forth, she had some other
Maybe
recommendations.
maybe
so-
off the line from what Terry said, this is Rodney's first year,
Yeah,
and it would be a very positive thing, so that we have really excellent report in front of the town, because it's first year.
Yep,
You know,
absolutely.
The last thing we can afford to do is come fragmented, so, yeah,
yep, agreed.
No, we're not gonna be fragmented,
fragmented.
not this board.
No,
Terry, I'd like to really work with you on that
Oh,
as well.
I'd love it. I just was
Yeah.
putting the offer out there to be like the kind of the go-between that people put things, because I'm pretty good about editing it and where to put it, but no, I
That's
mean, I
fine.
think we should all
See,
take
I had
a.
assumed it was gonna fall on me,
Oh, well, if
just-
you,
Well, no, I
Yeah.
don't wanna dissuade you from,
believe me, I'm in my busy season, so whatever works out, it's just I offered to just kind of be the go-between that, people write it, but I kind of just format it into the format that it has to go into that report.
Basically, if she doesn't like what you wrote, she'll change it into her way she
No,
wants.
no, remember, it's something that I was very careful to do when I was chairman, that we actually approved the report before it got in.
Mhm.
Every word.
Yep, that's right, no, going
Right.
through
And
that
that, to
arduous
me, is the
process.
most important thing, because then all 7 of us
are in
have
agreement.
ownership.
Yep,
And all 7 of us have proofread what's going in there to make sure it's right.
no, okay, no, that sounds fine. And, so what we'll end up doing, I think, is, we'll work on,
We'll all work on it.
everybody's gonna have to sort of, but we'll all work together on it. I mean, certainly, these are draft things that are gonna be read numerous times in the committee. We'll make recommendations like we have in the past, with this sounds better than that, so forth, and blah, 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 so we'll get through it, I'm convinced. I don't know if Chuck, did he ever send you his files?
I have the template,
Yeah, you do. Okay, cool.
yeah.
All right.
I have the template. I got it from him last year when he had said he wasn't gonna be doing it again, so I said I better have the template.
Yeah, good, excellent. Okay. Any other liaison reports? Okay. So we don't really have an update on the FY17 budget meetings, as Rodney's not here, but I wrote myself a note. I'll definitely touch base with him and find out when we get that report. And then I think what we'll need to do then is to back into the date, that April,
I think it's April 2nd now. It usually is around the 10th, because they need X amount of time at the printer.
yeah, budget due. And,
Time gets short very quickly on these things, as we find out all the time.
They always
I don't wanna be scrambling.
no, it's true. What's up with our budget? Or I should say, not our budget, our reserves and,
Sure, this is where we stand as of January 15th. For our reserve fund, we started with $100,000 and $45,000 of it, which recall the last meeting, I believe it was the last meeting.
Yeah.
Yep,
went
December
for that.
17th.
Correct.
That house that needed to be cleaned up and emptied out, so that.
45,000.
45, right. So that leaves us with 55, in the reserve fund. In our expenses, we had originally budgeted 62. We've spent 43, most of that related to the audit of 35,000. About 8,000 was spent in the October meeting, town meeting. And we have encumbered an additional $7,000. Net of what we've already spent and the encumbrance, that leaves us with about $11,800. But we still have to fund the May town meeting from that. And what's that number gonna be, about another 8,000
Wait a minute,
or
what's been
something?
encumbered, though? What was the encumbrance
The
for?
audit,
For the audit?
correct.
It was not, so, to me, the 11.8 is plenty for the finance committee report to go out.
Yeah,
Correct.
because we
And-
paid the mailing, right? And
Yeah.
the printing.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. So, I mean, if we spent about 8,000 in October, if we spent the same in May, that would leave us still with, a couple $1,000.
Yeah.
So, in total, from our reserve fund of 55 and the expense fund of 11, we have about 66. And that's net of the audit encumbrance, which may
So
roll
that
to
covers the
next year.
annual finance committee party at the end of the year, that's plenty of money.
Right, exactly.
I thought that's the party for the new members. You guys.
If I may, because now you talk about the 42, and you talk about, okay, you're talking about the 62
Yeah.
FinCom expense. Okay. Because we, in our FY17 budget, we're recommending going up by $5,000 on the town audit.
Do you know if we went back to Rodney or Harrington to find out if they've done anything to try to see if there's any subrogation on that payment, that loss?
The
What do you-
subrogation on that, they,
No, I mean,
Has it been done?
yeah,
I'm just wondering if they actually approached the homeowner's carrier, the insurance carrier.
Oh, you're saying on the.
Because there's always a chance that there's
Clean
some money available, but we have to go look for it. I mean, maybe it is not, but most people, if, that person probably had a mortgage. You can't get a mortgage
It
without
actually was
insurance.
the Bank of America, I remember
bank
reading.
owned it.
The
Yeah.
bank owned it.
Yeah.
the bank had
Well,
foreclosed.
They had
But
foreclosed.
there was insurance on that thing.
Yeah, the bank would require
the
homeowners
bank-
insurance for sure, if they had
Yeah.
a mortgage.
And the
Yeah.
bank has insurance, right?
Well, let's not forget, the bank had foreclosed, and when they were contacted about this problem, they said, pretty much, who cares? That was pretty much what was said to us in that meeting.
Yeah, so I mean, the good news here is that whatever, anybody who tries to buy that, so the bank's gonna can sit on it for in perpetuity if
No, I
basically
know,
we'll
but
get-
what I'm saying, if the
but
bank
yes.
owns it, and the bank wants to sell it,
Well, if
the
any was,
fact that it was cleaned up improves the value of the place for the bank to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing wrong with going to the bank and say, hey, listen, we helped you improve the value of that thing so you can get some money back. Give us 50% of our loss. That's all I'm saying. It makes sense, good business sense to
The
try
town will
to.
recommend, will review the liability insurance of the occupant in the bank and the mortgage holder to possibly recur expenditures. That's
I'm not saying that
in
that
there.
wasn't said, I'm just asking if
Yeah.
we know
If
if
it was
they're
done.
trying to do
No, it
it.
was.
Well, who would do that? I mean, it was done by the Board of Health that
Probably I would
cleaned out
think
the
it'd be
house, but
like
then.
I just think we should ask the question, that's all I'm saying.
No, I agree with you.
We did
No, I
ask
agree
the
with you.
question
Mm,
though at the meeting.
I have a question.
I'm asking if they followed up.
If they
since the
followed
meeting.
up on it. I'll ask, let me ask, maybe even,
If we get a no, that's fine.
Tom,
But if we don't get a no, it means we haven't asked the question.
right,
That's all.
follow up,
Did we put a lien on this property?
yes. There's a lien on the property with a 6% annual return. So if it takes 2 years,
We get it back.
we're gonna get it. We'll definitely get our initial investment. Mike brings up a good point in the fact that, does this actually improve the value of the property, right, to a certain extent, that the bank now can go in and actually sell it for
They
more
can't-
money?
They couldn't sell it
than we
if they
could-
wouldn't fix it up.
Right. Follow up
I'm
on,
not saying it's any value, but
How
you always
did-
should ask the question, just in case.
How did it get our problem, the town's problem?
because it's a health issue.
It's a public health
Public
issue.
health.
And there's,
It's
and
by law,
Oscar,
by mass
believe
law.
me,
Good
we
point.
put the health
Are you
agent.
sure?
Yeah, well,
Never heard of it.
Remember, there is a.
Learn something
big-
every day.
There's a
checked
big
out.
precedent-setting case in Blackstone, Mass. that we don't want to even go near.
Yeah.
Why this is our liability, and believe me, we put Mr. Harrington
It was
through the
vetted
ringer.
properly, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was vetted very well.
Yes,
Yeah.
and the Board of Health did as well. This was a last resort, and it had to be done because it's a public health
The
issue.
question is, though, too, has it been done yet? which I'm not
I
sure if
don't
it
know.
has or not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's,
I would imagine it would have to be, there's a time limit, I would think.
Yeah.
well,
There was an issue, I can't remember what it was, but I remember there was something about, because Glenn and somebody else on the Board of Health Committee were
Could
out
you-
in the
could
lobby.
you contact the
I'm
Board
gonna
of
call,
Health
I'm
and
gonna
let
call
us know?
Glenn. I'm gonna ask him if they followed up on the last paragraph of the thing, which was asking about the bank and insurance and so forth. And I'll ask if
Has the work been
it's
done?
been done.
Yeah. It's always good to spend somebody else's money.
You can't.
You never know.
approach the bank.
The insurance company's not gonna volunteer.
No, we can't. I think it would either be up to Glenn.
The lawyer
It's
said
gonna go
that's
through
a
legal
bill.
counsel.
There's nothing
It's
there.
gonna go through
Yeah,
legal
right.
counsel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I
And,
think-
you know,
I don't.
interestingly enough, our town's legal counsel also represented that other town that I just referred to, so he has a lot of experience with what happened. So, remember we met them at the
Yeah.
MMA last
Yeah.
year, yes.
Okay. So we're done with the budget meeting, so budget, we really can't discuss the budget, we're waiting on, I'm gonna ask Rodney when, when we'll get that. We have to have it by the 2nd, we believe, and we're pretty sure on that. Committee liaison reports, we're all finished up with. Is there anything in front of the board that anybody would like to discuss that I didn't know prior to formulating the agenda?
No.
Sir, anything you bring forth?
Just a spectator.
Great, thank you for coming.
I don't have anything, I knew this was gonna be a short
Yeah, we knew it
meeting.
was gonna be a short meeting. Yep.
Did it break your record from last year? Did
Oh
you
my
have one of
goodness,
those?
I don't know,
One that-
last year I might have had a meeting that lasted about half
Well, the
an
one at
hour.
the selectmen's joint
What?
selectmen
Well, I had a few of those.
in the high school.
Pretty short.
All right, so, one further thing, the next meeting, which is February 4th, Thursday, at the same time, same place, we're gonna have a joint meeting with the school committee.
Now, I would think it would be a good idea for you to reach out to the new chairman, but make sure that that's still on.
I can do that.
I would reach out to Mr. Myers, who is now the chairman of the school committee. And George Schmidt is the vice chair.
He's the vice chair.
Yes.
I'll reach out to Don and
Just to be
George.
sure, because we don't wanna be all geared up for a meeting with the school. And make sure that we get a copy of that new budget
Budget.
that we can put in our books, at that lower amount.
So, refresh my memory, because Kathy and I were going back and forth beginning. When Brian showed up with Paul Funk and Patricia DeBoer, I think Scotty was here, and that might have been it, unannounced. We put them in our public comment period and so forth. Was that when they asked for the February 4th, or was it George?
They were explaining about the expenditures at the end of the last fiscal year, for instance, buying all the Chromebooks.
Right,
And that was mainly why they were there, because they had heard that we had some questions
Right.
about their end-of-year expenditures. That was the segue to why Mr. Hyde came in with Mr. Funk.
right.
But
Is that
yes,
when
they
he
did
asked
allude to the three.
When he wanted to
yeah.
come to on the 4th, reserve the 4th?
believe so.
Okay, perfect. I just couldn't piece
But I
that.
would just make sure that they do, because if is it the whole school committee, or is it just the acting superintendent and the business manager and a couple members? I don't know, so.
And Myers has a different job, so he has different hours, so work hours, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Just a point to clarify something in my mind, because in the past, we talked about the liaison contacting the department head, and to familiarize himself or herself with the financial problems. There was a mention made that we should go through the town manager
Yes.
to set up that meeting. That's the first time I heard it in the last 7 years that we had to go through the town manager, but I just want to make sure that this is the protocol, that we contact the town manager and then set up a meeting with the person.
Yeah, I think it's out of, My personal opinion is, yes, you are correct. The time that I've sat on this committee, we had, under Joyce,
Free access.
sort of could go and talk to them and, you know, set things up. At the end of Joyce's tenure, I think Joyce requested that she would like to be included in knowing what we were doing, not so much what we were all doing, but, you know, that we were meeting with one of her department heads, which was fine, and I think Rodney has continued that practice over. I don't think it's anything more than him sort of knowing that department head's gonna meet
Yes.
with Tom Murphy, and I think, quite honestly, it's just a simple, oh, just gonna talk about the budget. Okay, great, fine, no issues, set it up. You know what I mean?
Because otherwise it kind of subverts the process to me, because remember, they're answerable to the town manager, he just wants to be in the loop.
Yeah, I don't think the
That's all.
spirit of
Just
it
wants
was
to be
to
in the loop.
control access, it
No.
was just
Yeah,
advisory.
he said that,
Yeah.
actually. It's not that he's gonna say no, it's just,
You just like to know, that's all.
just wants to know.
And it's funny, I've gone to them and I've said, if you have an issue, let's arrange a meeting with town manager, and it's funny how they have no issues once you suggest that.
Was this the intent of the town bylaws when they, the constitution, so to speak, when they established the office or the oversight of the finance committee? Well, those were supposed to be so totally independent of any kind of town management, just to look for the taxpayer, what's going on in town? Have another set of eyes. I mean, if we all come together in one big group here, we defeat our purpose.
I think it does, because I think the fact that the meeting doesn't change anything we're gonna recommend. It's just that you bring all the parties together at one time, and eliminate some of the misunderstandings. We can recommend anything we want to recommend, independent of the town.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think it
I
goes
think
in
it
the
doesn't,
face
I don't
of
think it does. I think the meeting is good, because if there's something that all parties can agree to, that's the best time to do it, before we have to write a report, so. But we still independently write the report.
And I think we also vote independently on each
Right,
budget
that's
line
correct.
item.
Right.
And I think that's what Mike's alluding to, is the fact that if we can get ahead of it, if there's something that you may not feel that is correct and so forth. You know, the flip side of that, and I think I know where you're going with it, Oscar, is the more transparency in the whole process and so forth, I think only garners a better result, just my opinion. I don't think, you know, Rodney's gonna, or even the assistant town manager, Tom Mayo, would be sitting in those meetings, you know, necessarily, you know, telling his department head not to respond to certain questions you may have. I really don't think it is that way. I think it's more, you know, just keeping everybody in the loop as to what maybe you're bringing back from our committee, saying, you know, here's the budget thing, and you wanted to get clarification on a certain line item on this specific budget, you know, and that may then just open up the door.
Yeah.
You know, that's all I think it really is, and, you know, if you feel as though for whatever reason that you feel restricted and so forth, then certainly let me know, and, you know, we can certainly have a discussion, but I think in the interest of, to Mike's point, getting everything on the table and letting everybody hear everything and so forth, it just might be a little bit of a quicker process, that's all.
Okay,
Looking forward to it.
because I read through the budgets of the fire department and the DPW, and I tell you, it takes me a couple hours just to go through item by item and
Lot of
to
work.
question myself, why is this change, you know? So, and I intend to meet with these people personally
Sure.
and to find out exactly what, and report back to you.
And that's what we want,
What,
absolutely, because,
why is it necessary? you
All
know?
you're doing is keeping him in the loop, just saying, you're saying, I intend to go meet with Tom Rulo and talk about the fire department. It's really just that he knows that they've met with him. It might even be saying that they're being open with you. You
and the
know,
good thing
and-
is, I applaud that for every one of our liaisons as far as the budgets go, is if you can take a minute, if you have questions on those budgets, certainly, you know, schedule a meeting, or if you, you know, can do it by email, and whether you keep Rodney, the thing, because I know, and George Baker and I used to go back and forth with his budget, head to head over his desk about vehicles and expense and
Yeah.
overtime and callback overtime and all this different stuff. And not only does it give you a bigger insight into what those budgets are, but it also, to Terry's point, kind of keeps them on their toes too, as far as where they are. And don't be, you know, I would say not only scrutinize, you know, the pluses, but also look at the negatives too, because the negatives also tell the story of, well, they're, you know, and George used to say, is robbing Peter to pay Paul in certain line items and so forth, and one may go down and one and another, and, you know, well, how could you justify it last year? You can't justify it this year, right, as far as the expense. So I think there's a story in not only looking at the larger increases, but even the ones that go down.
And if I may, one of the biggest things that I think people fail to do on whatever committee I've ever served on, read the information that's in front of you. There's a lot of information in here. If you read
Oh, yeah.
that department's summary of why they feel they need something, those can be your talking points with those department heads. And also looking at, like you said, the pluses and minuses, looking at that last column there where you see the percentages,
The
what's
increase,
gone
yeah.
up, what's gone down, and that, but really, too many times, and I think we've all been guilty of it at some time, we go in and we ask the question, and the information's right there. It really is. And I always find it's good to review whatever department I'm gonna go in and talk to, or who's coming in to talk to us. Just review that one section before they get in there, and it's amazing. You might not have to ask the question, or you may ask the question in public session, just simply because you know the answer, but you want the general public to know that answer as well.
And
That's
have
the
recorded
point.
the minutes.
Yes,
That's the point.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go there to inform myself.
No.
I'm going there because the people of the town
right.
have a right to know.
So
Correct.
you in turn inform us what you learned, and then we can make a
Right.
good informed
The
decision.
data behind it is the most important thing, because a percentage alone sometimes jumps out at you and
Yeah.
scares people, and just, it's got no bearing on the bottom line, really, when you think about it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Anything else before I call for adjournment?
I move to adjourn.
Call for,
Nope.
move to adjourn.
I will, second.
I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Great, thanks, everyone.